The layers in the bottom on the other side that are at about a 25-degree angle, those are the supergroup. It's called the Grand Canyon supergroup. If you went up to the Trail of Time, I showed you on that Trail of Time, but they were probably laid down horizontal early in the flood. A fault took place, boom, they collapsed, and then the following layers were laid down horizontally on top of those. So that's called the Grand Canyon supergroup. The bottom of that, the black, is the Cardenas basalt, and that area down through there is called the desert furnace. Because we're on a raft trip and you come through that area, it's like 120, 125, 6 degrees down there. A lot has to do with the black basalt and all, but it's extremely hot. And so what I wanted to talk about was the missing 2 miles of layers that have been removed. First of all, you've got let's go right here. You've got Cedar. It's called Cedar Mountain. It's actually Cedar Butte, and it's the twin butte, the sister butte of Red Butte that we saw as we were driving up this morning. Bottom 600 feet is a Moenkopi layer. Top 300 feet is a Chinle layer, and those layers are picked up north in the first really major step of the Grand Staircase. See those cliffs, 65 miles north of us? Those are the 2,000-foot tall Vermilion Cliffs. And the Mogollon Rim is not officially part of the Grand Staircase, but it is part of the same erosional event. But if you went 65 miles north and you climbed up those 2,000-foot layers, and you went about 45 miles north, you'd come to the 2,500-foot tall white and gray cliffs where Zion is. If you climbed up on top of those and went another 40 miles north, you come to the 2,500-foot pink cliffs where we find Bryce. That's the staircase. Bryce, Zion, Vermilion Cliffs, Mogollon Rim, gone all the way south to the sea. So the layers used to be almost 2 miles above where we are right now. Now, a couple of things about the missing layers. If you want to get a real feel for how much we're talking about, take your thumb. Well, first of all, you're blocking the view there. Get over this way, big guy. You can't see past him. He's so big. He's a big guy. So take your thumb and your index finger and bracket the top and the bottom of Cedar Butte, and now put 9 of those on top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That is how much strata has been removed from above this area. Twice as deep as Grand Canyon is, twice that much has been removed from above here.
How do we know that?
Because I just told you. Like I said, no one argues this. Secular geology do not argue this.
They agree.
Oh yeah, and I told you, and they say a small stream over millions of years removed it. That's their excuse, which makes no sense.
Yeah.
But this is some of the most awesome proof of the flood. How awesome? Here at Grand Canyon, if you go to Grand Canyon, Zion, and Bryce, they won't say a word about the event that removed those layers. Won't say a word about it. You know what? Because people would say, well, what in the world removed it? A small stream. A small stream. Nobody is going to buy into that. So, awesome proof of the global flood, and Cedar Butte and Red Butte are some things that are easy to explain to everybody. So how did Grand Canyon itself form? Well, a couple of neat things. The 2 miles of rock layers were removed. We're talking trillions of tons of sediment, and this is when the mountains arose and the valley sank down toward the end of the flood. So the Rocky Mountains north of here, the Wasatch Mountains in Utah, and the Sierra Madre Mountains in California all arose in a north-south trending direction. It was almost like the continent was moving and stopped suddenly, and it buckled. And at the same time, the Kaibab upwarp formed that we're standing on top of for the Colorado Plateau that we've been on all day, and driving where it was flat, buckled upward. Grand Canyon does not cut a mile deep into the plain. The area buckled, and Grand Canyon cuts through the upwarp. We're on top of the upwarp. The flat areas, well, the top areas out there, they're pretty well carved up by water flow now. That's also the Kaibab limestone, but now we're up on the top of the upwarp. The upwarp is as much as 4,500 feet above the plain. It's all the Kaibab limestone. We're on the Kaibab limestone. Cedar Butte is standing on the Kaibab limestone. Cedar Butte is the next two layers that were removed that were above here. It used to be above where we're standing right here. So the key is to realize the upwarp formed, and you can see if you follow the top layer right here, you see right here it starts going up the upwarp. If you go this way, you can follow, you can see where the layers are slanted and start rising up here. But what happened is, and there's a couple of very good theories on the formation of the Grand Canyon. Remember, the secularists don't have a viable theory. They do not have a viable theory. So the two very good theories that they're still arguing about which one might be best and doing research. And I'm not trying to sell a particular theory. My interest is to show you that God's word is true, and this formed in a matter of days, not over zillions of never seen historical narrative years. So there was a channeling event. There's two theories. One is that right at the end of the flood, as the waters started to dissipate, they started to channel. And you see that canyon coming in behind Cedar Butte? That's the little Colorado River Canyon. And it bed at the base of the upwarp about 4.5 miles from here. You can see where it comes in. But if you notice to the left, there's a canyon cutting in, a channeling event cutting in from the northeast. That's Marble Canyon. So two channeling events as water started to channel at the end. Have you ever been at the beach and you're facing away from the water and the wave comes in, and as you're standing there it goes out, and all of a sudden it takes away all that sand from your heels and you stumble backward? That's a channeling event. Well, these two channeling events channeled as the water is dissipated. They met together at the base of the upwarp and cut right through the upwarp. There's different reasons on why they cut through the upwarp. One is from the upwarp form that may have formed somewhat of a breakage or a crack or a fault through here. But anyways, they came cascading through the upwarp. The other theory is that the upwarp formed a huge earthen dam, and they caught water that would have backed up almost to Salt Lake City to the north and almost to Albuquerque to the east, and it would have, these lakes would have held about twice as much water as Lake Michigan holds. And when they eventually breached this dam, the waters came cascading through, and you're talking water weighs 8 pounds per gallon. And you're talking water that was probably moving at about estimated 120 miles per hour. And they were carrying bits of sand, up to 200,000 pound boulders, and it ripped through this like a giant belt sander and probably formed most of the Grand Canyon in a matter of days. I have a message, I call it the 6-day formation of Grand Canyon. It was filmed right at the edge of the canyon right over there, and it covers Grand Canyon very thoroughly in the formation of Grand Canyon. But the waters eroded Grand Canyon. The straight up and down canyon walls are indicative of fast formation. The lack of rock debris you see all around at the bottom is an indication of recent formation. And those are the two best theories on how Grand Canyon formed. Very quickly, not slowly, over never seen millions of years of time. Any questions?